Welcome to the People Sports Podcast. She is Charlotte Wilder. I'm a man who correctly predicted the Bucks would win the NBA Finals in 6 games, along with like 5 other predictions, Charlotte. But let's not focus on those. Let's focus on me saying Bucks in 6.
Don't even bring those up. Why would you even bring those up? The only thing I remember you saying about the NBA Finals, Mark, is Bucks in 6.
Bucks in 6, baby. I want to warn both our listeners and you, Charlotte, mostly you, Charlotte, that I have takes today. Boy, do I have takes. This is a show that we usually try to have some fun. We usually talk about Sir Thomas Lipton losing America's Cup, Yosemite Sam live action movies, stuff like that. But the NBA Finals are over. The Milwaukee Bucks are champions. Small market Mark is very excited about this. And I'm going to have some takes for you because I think I'm going to tease it with this. Giannis Antetokounmpo has saved the NBA, Charlotte. 5 years after. I was
waiting for that.
5 years after Kevin Durant ruined it and was just throwing dirt on the NBA's grave. And I'm lost in the wilderness, just wandering around. Where can I turn for professional basketball?
Yes. Where?
What do I do? What about me? What about the common man? What about the salt of the earth man?
What about the people
that doesn't love the super teams? That's not a coastal elite guy. That doesn't want to. That doesn't. You know that I don't care about these players' brands. I don't care. I don't want to care about your brand. I want to be entertained. Give me good basketball. And finally, at long last, Giannis says, Mark Titus, I'm your guy. I got you. So I'm excited to talk about Giannis because he is the most he's recency bias. Giannis Antetokounmpo might be the most likable superstar athlete of all time. Like, this guy cannot miss right now.
That's not recency bias because in my notes for the show I have written down, is there anyone who even comes close to being as likable as Giannis? And this is before he was a champion, I think. When you look back at all of the... I mean, we'll get there. We'll get there. That's just a teaser. Because there are first, like, a few headlines that we don't want to talk about, but that we have to mention.
Yeah, like, we have to mention because, like, people listening will be like, damn, I can't believe you guys didn't touch on this. You only talked about the finals. We want to make sure that you guys understand we are aware of these things going on. We just don't want to talk about them because we want to talk about Giannis. So what are some things we don't want to talk about this week?
The first thing we don't want to talk about that I desperately want to talk about, but that we really don't want to talk about, is Aaron Rodgers turning down $2 million. I almost said $2 million.
Wow, that's not.
That's like $1 million.
This contract in 1968.
He turned down $2 million and a pack of cigarettes. No, he turned down a 2-year contract extension that would have made him the highest paid player in the NFL.
Whoa.
He also, there was an article about his fiance, Shailene Woodley, that came out in which she said that she had never watched a game of football before she dated Rodgers. And my question to you, Mark, is that... First of all, I think she's lying because she said the same thing. That she said she'd never seen a rugby game before she dated her ex-boyfriend who was a rugby player. I also think, though, that if you were a human being in America and you've been in a bar before, you've probably accidentally seen football. Do you think it's possible that she hasn't seen a football?
I love if Aaron Rodgers was like, and I had never seen a movie before or a TV show. I'd never watched any movie or TV show before I started dating Shailene. So it's a match made in heaven that we were both very ignorant of each other's careers. No, I don't think she's. There's no way that's true, right? But if it is, I want it to be true because I think that's great content. I think if Shailene did like a YouTube channel this year during the season where she just kind of like explained things she's learning about football throughout the seation. She's like, all right, so this is my first season watching football. I got to support are they engaged?
Yes.
My fiance. Got to support my fiance. I'm going to explain what I learned this week. All right, this week there are 11 guys on the field for each team. That's all I know.
Next week.
More
about kickers. No, I think you're right. The problem is if she did that, this podcast would stop being about anything but Shailene. It would be a reaction podcast to Shailene Woodley's football YouTube videos.
We do we get Shailene, we convince her to do like live videos, and then you and I just piggyback on it, and we do like the after the, like how those reaction shows used to be a thing, right? Like with Game of Thrones and like other.
The Ringer did one for Big Little Lies, which she was in, so this would be the same thing, but a little more sporty.
We do that for that. We're the immediate reaction videos to Shailene Woodley's Football breakdown. Yeah, I don't believe her. I'm with you because it's football is such a. We were talking about this with Ben Verlander. I mentioned it very quickly about how baseball is now treated as a niche sport, and I as a college basketball guy have to deal with like people saying like you cover a niche sport and all that. And my point is that I think every sport is a niche sport other than the NFL. Every single sport in this country. I don't care how popular you think you are. The NFL is the only sport that is like that seeps into all of our lives whether we want it to or not because it's just such a cultural deal in this country. And to that point, I think Shailene Woodley, if you have any social life whatsoever, which I assume she does, at some point, you don't have to be into football. At some point you're going to be put in a position where someone has a football game on. Are you nuts?
I hope you're right. I hope that the greatest possible outcome here is if she hasn't, because I want to know how. Like, I know she's very crunchy. Like, she doesn't use soap or something. There was something about soap at some point, or like she loves the environment, and maybe football's bad for the environment. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's like a part of her core beliefs. But I would love to know what. Because in the article, she was like, I didn't know it was going to be such a big deal. I didn't know people were going to care so much. And I'm like,
that's impossible.
That
is impossible.
What?
But like, so it's frustrating to you and I to hear her say that. But do you think there is a tipping point moment where Shailene Woodley could be so ignorant on all sorts of things that it's actually like kind of endearing? Where she's just like, I had no idea that like who Lady Gaga, is that her name? Like, who is she? I've never heard of her.
I think it would be adorable.
Like she keeps doing that with like all these things that exist that she's just kind of like, I never heard of it. Harry Potter? Is he's a wizard? Or is he a magician? He's an actual. I wouldn't know. Never heard of him.
Did you say is he a wizard or a magician?
Yeah.
That's one of the funniest things I've ever heard said about her. You're a magician, Harry.
Yeah, but that's Shailene though. That's Shailene. She's like, I've never heard of. I have no idea what you're talking about. Because I do think there's a point where if Shailene just keeps like living under, like the more she's living under a rock, instead of being like, how is that? Instead of like getting mad, you're like, oh, this is adorable. You know nothing.
It's like watching a baby giraffe learn how to walk. It's like she wasn't she in that movie where she lives on a sailboat for a little while?
Yeah, that's right.
It's like her real life was that she was just on a sailboat in the middle of the Pacific with no satellite or whatever. Yeah. There you go. Beautiful. Life imitates art.
Done.
I do think though, in terms of his turning down the money, real quick not to get back to sports. I know that's very disappointing. This is what we've said the whole time. This isn't about This is about Aaron Rodgers feeling disrespected. He doesn't like. That's it. That's the bottom line.
He's retiring. Yes, I agree.
He's
done. Is that what we said? Yeah.
Yes.
He's going
By
to play.
Disrespected, I meant retiring.
He's going to play for the Minnesota Timberwolves, so he can team up with his buddy Cat. Is what we've covered on the show. He's pivoting to basketball
with a T. Cat with a T.
Cat with a T, not cat.
Cat.
Are you saying cap or cap? Cap.
He also is now an NBA champion because he owns 1% of the Bucks.
Wow. How about that?
So
he's a 1%er, huh?
Yes. I learned that this morning.
He owns 1% of the Bucks. That's I want to own 1% of the Bucks.
I'm sure you can if you can come up with the money.
Yeah. 1%.
If you can come up with $1 million, then maybe. I don't know how much the Bucks are worth.
Do you have to? Because hold on, I want to flesh that out a little bit because if Aaron Rodgers celebrated the Bucks winning the title and was like, I'm an NBA champ, if he wanted like a replica Larry O'Brien trophy to put in his, I would argue that it's well within his rights to want that. He's a part owner of the team. But I think most of America would be like, that's absurd and ridiculous. You own 1%, dude. Like, you're not an actual owner. But no one would stop. Who's the Bucks owner? Is it
Lasry? Someone Lasry?
Yeah.
Or Eden?
Who's Mallory Edens? Isn't her family
Edens,
the owner? I just know Mallory Edens is like
two, older white guys.
Point is, if those people are celebrating, they obviously are. Weren't they part of the celebration and raising the trophy and all that? Like nobody, the majority owner, no one says like, why are you celebrating, dude? No one's thought it's duh. So where's the threshold, Charlotte? How much of the team do you have? Let's gatekeep for a second. How much of the team do you have to own as a minority owner to celebrate a championship? And people aren't like, what? I don't get it. What? Yeah.
Here it is. First of all, they should have let Aaron Rodgers on there. If anyone's worried about NBA ratings, put an NFL player who owns part of the team on the court. How incredible would it have been to watch Giannis and Aaron Rodgers just like pal around on the court? Everybody wants that. So my answer to you is that you have to be not a famous person who owns let's go with over 55% of the team to be on the floor celebrating, or you're famous and you own 1%.
1%.
Like if Drake owned a part of that, I wouldn't be mad that he were there because he was famous, and I'd be like, that's pretty funny.
So if the guy who invented like push pops, say, I don't know why that comes to mind.
No, that's incredible.
The guy who invented push pops bought 7.5% of the Bucks. And he's a 7.5% owner. And he's like, I did my team. This is my team. I own 7.5%. Like, I can't. And they're like, sir, no. Push pop guy, please. No. Please.
But if what are those things? You know those things that, not the push pops, but like the long tubes of
juice?
What are those? Freeze pops?
Freeze pops, yeah. I think.
Tubes of juice. But if the guy who owned those owned 60%, if the guy who founded Freeze Pops owned 60% of the team, I'd be like, sir, right this way. Okay. And Push Pops guy would be like, what? And I'd be like, you only own 7%. So up your freezer game, man.
Also, the Freeze Pops are better. They're just a better treat.
I prefer them.
I prefer them. You can have 1,000 of them. You can't have 1,000 Push Pops.
No.
I tried once.
You know what's gross though?
What?
What's gross is when the Freeze Pops melt and they are just tubes of juice.
They're just juice. Yeah. That is kind of gross.
It's a little disillusioning.
Should we spend the next hour to an hour and a half
Probably
discussing Freeze Pops versus Push Pops?
Yes.
I just thought about this too, because you were talking about Aaron Rodgers being on the court. I remember in 2015, I was in Los Angeles for Arizona playing Wisconsin, and then Elite Eight game. Wisconsin beats Arizona to go to the Final Four for the second year in a row. And Aaron Rodgers was in the crowd with whoever he was dating at the time. Olivia Munn. And he was decked out in Wisconsin gear. And I remember like scratching my head thinking like, is this okay? Because this man went to Cal. This man did not go to the University of Wisconsin, but he's the Packers quarterback, and he had adopted the Wisconsin basketball team as his own. And my point being, Charlotte, that Aaron Rodgers has shown that he loves the Badgers. He has shown that he loves the Bucks. He owns part of the Bucks. And I just find it fascinating that this man has just like planted his roots so firmly in Wisconsin, and yet Green Bay, he's throwing up double middle fingers to the Packers organization. Is like, get me the hell out of here. Interesting. It's very interesting.
It's fascinating, but if you think about it, it also could be a very, very long game play.
Ooh.
Because if Aaron Rodgers is trying to convince, if he's spent 10 years, 16 years, however long he's been there, just being like, I'm the Wisconsin guy, you would think that maybe in his head he's like, okay, so if I'm pulling the plug on this, if I'm not accepting their offers, if I'm refusing to come back, fans know it's not because I wasn't all in, or I wasn't all in on the small market. It's because they screwed me over so bad that I simply morally can have nothing to do with it. It's almost like, when you're a camp counselor and you're like funny and fun most of the time, but then like that one time where you're like, you got to get off the roof. The kid like gets off the roof. Like, right. Maybe that's the situation that he's trying to go for.
That's right. So when Sam Decker hit the big shot against Arizona, the dagger, and Aaron Rodgers just lost his mind and threw his arms in the air in 2015, he was thinking 6 years later, I'm going to hate the franchise I play for, and I want all the Wisconsin people. Yes. I got you. Yep.
100%.
Galaxy exactly brain move by Aaron. Is there anything else we definitely don't want to talk about? Spend any time whatsoever before we get to Giannis?
This is something I truly don't want to talk about. Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to the White House. I don't.
You truly do not. It hurts. Look at that picture. Bruce Arians, how red is his face? What the hell is going on there?
He's been at a tanning salon. That's a fake.
He's like a tomato.
Is that real?
Yeah, and then his shirt is like matches his face. Like what was that?
We buried the lead on this one. Why isn't he the headline?
And I love that he's standing next. He's the buffer. I think Bruce Arians. How much? I'm pretty confident Joe Biden had Bruce Arians standing between him and Tom Brady, because Joe Biden's like, I look kind of slick with these aviators on, and that's kind of my brand, and I like to think that I look cool. But if I stay next to Tom Brady, I'm going to look like an idiot. So, Bruce, stand in between me and Tom. Look like a tomato. So both of us look good standing next to you.
It could also be that, look, is Biden a Eagles fan?
Oh, good point.
He could be like, I really don't like this guy. Also, this is what I wanted to. The reason I don't want to talk about this is because I don't want to talk about how Tom Brady had a Make America Great Again hat in his locker in 2015. And I don't want to talk about how he then, first of all, I will say, good that he went to the White House because he skipped his past 2 previous visits. Okay, fine. So he's going to be like, hey, maybe I'm supporting whatever's going on in turn. Like maybe he's like, hey, everybody should get vaccinated. Don't think he said that. Wouldn't be shocked if Tom Brady thought the vaccine. Well, I'm not going to go there.
It's not TB12 approved.
I don't know. I don't know. But he said, a lot of people didn't think we were going to win. In fact, 40% of the country still thinks we didn't win. He goes, you know what that feels like, Mr. President. And I was like, you have not earned that joke, Tom.
You can't. Yeah. Tom, you're like the one guy that can't. That it's on the Bucs that can't make that joke, right? But at the same time, he's Tom Brady. He does what he wants.
He sure does.
That's how is it controversial to say that I think that nobody should go to the no championship? Like, why is that a thing?
No, I think it's weird.
Isn't that kind of weird that we just accept it as, and then it's a no-win situation, especially now with how divided the country is politically, that
it's just a terrible idea.
I don't understand who started that. I'm sure someone's written an article about it, and I can very quickly look that up. But very bizarre, isn't it? That
Do you remember though when Trump fed the Clemson team fast food?
Yeah.
Because it was a government shutdown and there was no one to cook for them.
That was so good. To your point about Biden maybe being a Philly fan, I would love that to have a president who doesn't invite the team because. He's like if Obama was a Bears fan and the Packers won, and he was like, "To hell with that! You're not invited. No, keep your ass back. Like I'm not having the Packers come to my house. Get the hell out of here."
I think that would be the smartest way to drive up your ratings.
Yes,
because everyone in America would be like, "Finally, someone with principles."
Yes. Be like, "Oh my God, he sticks to." And maybe that's a good way to end the tradition too of doing this. Just like that's my promise to the American people. If I ever become president, and the Yankees win a title, hell no. You're not invited. No.
Same. For the record, if I'm president and the Yankees win, no way.
Like Alabama, like Nick Saban, get the hell out of here, dude. The Buckeyes are the only college team that gets invited to the White House. Or Ohio State. I'll invite Ohio State. Like if they make the Sweet 16, I'm like, come on, Ohio State.
You wouldn't even
Duke, no, stay home. Dude,
you would funnel government funds into the Ohio State athletic department,
yes, I
and you would try to rig it, and then for 4 years, Ohio State would win absolutely every. You'd import players from Greece who are like 26 to play.
Yes,
and pay them to play as moles.
And I would keep getting reelected because Ohio's a swing state, and everyone in Ohio would be like, I love this guy. I'd be like, yes, done, boom.
That's really good.
Speaking of the United States of America, the only other thing I didn't want to talk about was the Olympics starting. I think we should talk about the Olympics next week. I kind of wanted to touch on it this week, but we simply do not have the time, Charlotte. We have to get into the NBA Finals. We don't have time to lollygag and spend 18 minutes talking about God knows what when the NBA Finals just finished and the Bucks won the title. So maybe we'll talk about the Olympics next week. I definitely. I do love that the cardboard beds have become the story of the Olympics so far, and I wonder how much longer that will be the case. But it's certainly hilarious that that's the story right now. So
it's we'll see. And COVID probably. I would say.
But COVID's
just such a constant.
Not that it was ever fun to yeah, that's the one. I almost said COVID's not fun to talk about. I was like, it's never been fun to talk about. But it's been such a constant thing that it's just and of course also let us not forget about the pandemic. It's how people. But the cardboard beds, they're hilarious.
I have a friend who's actually a rower for Team USA. We went to high school together, and she's also a doctor. So it's what have I done with my life? But she posted on her story a picture of the beds, and she was like, they're actually very sturdy. So she was like, I know it's weird that they're cardboard, but they're kind of fine. Which
it's actually
I think
nice cardboard. It's it's a high quality cardboard.
What does it matter if a bed's made of plastic or carton? Neither is a nice material. I don't know. I was sort of like, why is this such a big deal? Like, if they're sturdy, who cares? Also, I want to do a quick shameless plug for the story I wrote about that Canadian softball player, Danielle Laurie. It is now on foxsports.com. And, I really spent a lot of time on that. So if everyone could go click it for me, that would mean a lot.
Click it.
It's also an incredible story. She's a very inspiring athlete.
Don't give
she's
too much
34.
away, Charlotte. Don't give too much away.
Sorry. Okay.
Do the tease, but don't read the article on air. No one's gonna click.
Okay,
on
I'll give the teaser. She's 34, came out of retirement at 30, has 2 kids, and she's now in Tokyo, going for a gold after 13 years of her and softball being out of the Olympics.
I really feel like you just read the whole article.
I didn't. There's so much more to it.
Okay, I'll read it. Please. I'm begging you. I'm ready. I want to fire off some takes about the NBA Finals because this is I was beaming. I can't believe how happy I was watching the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Phoenix Suns in 6 games. I didn't think I cared who won going into the series. It reminded me of the Super Bowl between the Bucks and the Chiefs, where I was like, I don't think I care who won. And then like 5 minutes into the game, I was like, I think I'm cheering for the Chiefs. Like, just very quickly, I was like, I don't think I have it in me to cheer for Tom Brady. Whatever. That's how I felt about the NBA Finals. I was like, I don't care who wins. Suns, Bucks, and neither one of them have won it forever. Both kind of likable enough, whatever. Who cares what happens? Almost immediately, I was like, I want the Bucks to win. I need the Bucks to win. And the Bucks won, and I was so happy last night watching it all unfold. And that's just basically how I wanted to start. So I wanted to talk about the NBA Finals a little bit. Maybe we talk about this because I find this fascinating. That somewhere around Game 5, Charlotte. Mm-hmm. I think it was Game 5. I think that was the moment. A switch got flipped, where the Phoenix Suns were America's darling. Yep. Chris Paul was being given his flowers. Like, that was the hot phrase of media, was give Chris Paul his flowers. And that's all. We were all applauding Chris Paul. You and I spent. Google it. Okay. Google the search history Chris Paul flowers and watch it just spike. We even did a show talking about how Chris Paul was like hated for most of his career, at least like was maybe if he wasn't a villain, he was certainly like a pest and annoying and whined a lot and flopped a lot and just kind of unlikable in general. And suddenly he was likable. And how did this happen? That was a story. The Phoenix Suns fans were awesome. Everybody loved Suns and Forward guy. Everybody loved the guy that was tripping on acid and wearing the shooter sleeve and the 8K shots is what everyone called it. And I don't think they're actually 8K, but we just kind of ran with that phrase and that's what we're all calling it. Everything, good vibes coming out of Phoenix. That's what we had. We had great vibes. And then somewhere around Game 5, right when we get the shot of the Phoenix Suns fan counting money as Giannis is shooting free throws, Chris Paul trying to hit Giannis in the balls as he had the awesome alley-oop dunk to seal the game. Like, something happened in Game 5 where coming out of that game, it was like, oh, forget the Suns. The Suns actually aren't like everything we just said for the past like week and a half. Never mind. Giannis is likable. We love Giannis. We love the Bucks. Check out how cool the Deer District is. Aren't these fans so cool? And like, it just flipped on its head. What happened, Charlotte?
Man, I don't exactly know, except I know that is exactly what happened to me. A lot of the times I feel like, it fandom can vary and people can feel different ways about different teams at different times. But you're right, this was a flip and it got switched. And right around the time of the dunk, Giannis misses 2 free throws.
Was it a flip that got switched or a switch that got flipped?
I don't know. I always do that. Which is it a switch that got flipped?
I don't know. It's both.
Or a flip that got
switched. Both.
It's a switch. The switch got flipped. And I think there was something so endearing and also emblematic of who Giannis is as a player, which he doesn't give up on a single play. His whole speech about being humble and, not feeling entitled or prideful or having an ego and just really playing for the moment. That went viral. And first of all, that was an incredible speech. Second of all, it was also a sports writer's wet dream. Like,
yeah, it was,
every sports writer who's ever written a story about someone's relationship with his father just like absolutely had a conniption when they read that speech or heard that speech. I also, though, I felt it. I felt the moment that it happened. Chris Paul, I think, was it game 4 that he had all those turnovers? Like, if he had continued playing super well through the whole thing, I think it would have been different. But he flopped. He had those turnovers. He just sort of fell apart in a really it was off-putting. I was like, why?
Yes.
You know, I was joking.
But that's who he's been always. And I guess
Right.
like I'm upset with America for it really felt like 7 to 10 day stretch where I was like, yeah, you know, I guess Chris Paul winning a ring would be kind of cool. It wouldn't be. And that's what I like. Last night I was like, no, I kind of hate Chris Paul, and I don't understand how I got sucked in. Why we got sucked into thinking like Chris Paul is a likable guy at all.
It was the State Farm commercials.
I'm frustrated, Charlotte. I was lied to. I was bamboozled. I like for a moment in time, I was like, yeah, this would be kind of cool. My theory is that we are a nation of front runners, and Chris Paul has been his whining, his flopping, his complaining to the refs, his antics, his whatever, the long list of things that this guy does that are very unlikable. We enjoyed ripping those apart because he would lose in the second round of the playoffs all the time, and it's like fun to do that. Going into the NBA Finals, it felt like the Suns were not necessarily a lock, but the Suns they beat LeBron James and the defending champion Lakers in round 1. They sweep the MVP of the league in round 2. The Clippers are a hot team that just knocked off the Jazz, who are the 1 seed in the West, and the Clippers are playing really well. They didn't have Kawhi, but like the Clippers hit a ton of threes and are looking like a pretty strong team, and the Suns kind of have their way with the Clippers. So you're going to the finals, you're like, man, Phoenix is rolling. Meanwhile, Milwaukee entering the finals, Giannis's knee looked like it exploded into a million pieces, and you're like, can Giannis even play? He plays in game 1, isn't even close to 100%, and you're thinking, all right, so the Suns are going to win. And I think the reason all the Chris Paul love came out right around then is because we as a nation realized whether we like it or not, Chris Paul's about to win a ring. So let's like all just accept it. Let's try to spin it as though this isn't the worst thing in the world. When in reality, as the series progressed, I was thinking to myself, can you imagine if the Suns win game 6 tonight? Like as I was watching the game last night, if the Suns win game 6 and then Chris Paul does win this, I'm going to be pissed. I hate this guy. I realized last night in that moment, Charlotte, and as I was like trying to as I was so happy that the Bucks won, I realized Chris Paul for me is this generation's Reggie Miller, and you know how much I hate Reggie Miller.
Oh my God.
That's what I realized.
That's like the meanest thing you personally could say about a basketball player.
The guy flops, the guy whines, the guy in press conferences like always says like not quite the 100% wrong thing. Like he says the right thing, but like if you're watching it, you're rolling your eyes and you're like, my God, dude, get over yourself. Get over, like, just, you know, he is not he's not a classy loser. There aren't a lot of things, but yet he's a good basketball player. So like some part of you is like, I do respect his game. But last night I was that was my thought. I was like, this dude is just Reggie Miller of this generation. And I hated Reggie Miller. And I felt like in 1998, to further the analogy, in 1998, Reggie Miller kind of almost beat the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. Almost. And he hits a shot against Michael Jordan in game 4. He pushes off Michael Jordan, hits the shot to beat the Bulls. And then Reggie Miller starts celebrating all that. And I felt like during the 98 run, as a kid growing up in Indiana, that felt to me like this Chris Paul playoff run where it felt like people were like, man, this would be cool if like Reggie could knock off Michael Jordan and like finally win a ring, because Reggie Miller's never done anything in his career and is actually not that good. But like, wouldn't it be cool if he did this? And then Reggie Miller pushes off Jordan and he celebrates and starts milking his ankle injury like he can't walk again, when it's like, dude, we just saw you push off Michael Jordan and hit the game winner. Now you're pretending like you can't walk. That to me was Chris Paul punching Giannis in the balls on the alley-oop, where I was like, that's right, I do hate you. I forgot. I hate you. I want you to lose.
Well, yeah, because also here's the thing. Like, what was Chris Paul winning gonna do for anybody? Is that it's like a nice feather in his cap to like, congrats on your long season, congrats on being 36 and never having won before. Here you go. Now you
yes.
It didn't feel like it didn't feel like we briefly wanted him to win because he deserved it, but because it was sort of sad if he didn't get it. And if you think about it, Giannis two-time MVP. He has poured his heart into this. He is so lovable. He doesn't give up. He doesn't flop. And now this is the beginning of him being an unbelievably great player who has already won a championship, will hopefully win more championships.
Yep.
Like with Chris Paul, it'd be like, okay, nice, you got a championship, cool.
Yeah.
With Giannis, it's like, how many can he get? Like it's the beginning rather than the end of the story.
Such
and I
a
think
better
that
story.
is so much more fun.
That's why I'm so mad, because I was conned into like the Chris Paul love fest, and I think
let me make you feel better about yourself for a second. Giannis, this was a rom-com, and Giannis was the girl from the 90s rom-com who no one really thinks about. No one thinks is like the main love interest. Everyone's focused on like the jock and the cheerleader. And then Giannis comes out and he takes off his glasses and he lets his hair down.
Okay.
And everyone's like, it was you the whole time.
It was you all along.
You
were right in front of me the whole time.
Along.
Yes.
And now everybody realizes it, but it was like, oh my God, we were blinded to like Chris Paul's, varsity letter jacket.
I don't think I really, as I think back on it, I think that we just I don't think we liked Chris Paul. I think we were just, it was like a coping mechanism, because I think like the saddest scene you can paint as a sports fan is being the hater of the guy who just won the title. That like the guy's lifting the trophy and you're at home with your arms crossed and you're like, I hate that guy. He's such a, And I think we all saw where the series was headed, and we were like, I got to get ahead of this. Like, because if I hate Chris Paul and he's the champion and he finally gets his ring and all that, I'm going to look like such a loser for hating on this guy. So I guess, like, I got to admit, like, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world that Chris Paul, he's a good player and he's a Hall of Famer. And, like, I guess it's kind of cool that he's going to win her. And I think that's where it happened. And then the moment Game 5 happened and the Bucks go up 3-2, it's like all the weighted vest gets torn off. And it's like, I always hate it. It's like, thank God I can take this thing off.
Right. You don't have to emotionally hedge on yourself anymore.
I don't have to pretend anymore. I'm free to be me. I hate you, Chris.
I have a question for you. If you're Chris Paul, so during the game, LeBron, and he'd been at Game 5 and he was like tweeting, he was like, I want this for my buddy Chris, blah, blah, blah. During Game 6, LeBron tweeted, the Greek freak is ballin' or something, like something along those lines. If you're Chris Paul and you get off the court and you see that your best friend has been like, oh, my best friend's enemy actually playing pretty well, and tweeted about it for the engagement and to prove that he was watching the game, how long would it take you to talk to LeBron again?
That's a great
if you're
question.
Chris Paul?
That's.
I think I would feel so betrayed. I'd be like, yeah, sure he was, but you didn't have to say it, man.
Yeah.
He'd be like, I get that you're like the face of the league, but
speaking of the Chris Paul LeBron rift, I had a friend tell me this super hot take that like I was dying laughing, but then I was also like, you're kind of right. That LeBron is the real Monstars, and that he has his two friends, Carmelo Anthony and Chris Paul, who have never won a title. And part of why they never win a title is because LeBron has sucked up all the talent to build his own super teams and kept them and sucked up all the titles for himself. And I was like, I don't fully track where you're going with this, but at the same time, I love it.
I'm laughing, but I'm also like galaxy brain. Like that makes so much sense.
It's not a perfect analogy, but also Space Jam is out right now, so I'll go with it. Let's go.
No, let's roll with that. I also still haven't watched Space Jam. Sorry, I know I was supposed to before recording this. I don't want to, Mark. I just don't want to.
Now. I think the time to watch it was like the weekend it came out. And now if you don't watch it, because the whole reason of watching it is just to have the takes.
Yeah, and you said it was bad, and it wasn't even fun bad. And so I'm like, well, then I'm just sorry.
It's not like, Charlotte, you're not going to find yourself at a cocktail party in late August and someone's going to be like, so what'd you think of the new Space Jam? Like, that's not, like, the moment for the takes has come and gone, I think. So you're
honestly,
fine.
Mark, someone already asked me what I thought, and I said what you said. I said, it was bad and it wasn't even fun bad. And then the conversation was over, and I didn't even have to say I hadn't watched it. So I think that window has closed. But
I by the way, when I was on that boat on Sunday with a bunch of strangers,
God, rub it in.
Yeah, it was a bunch of strangers. Didn't know any of them. There were these two women sitting to my right on the boat, and there was a moment of silence where the music had been turned down because the guy who owned the boat was like working on something. We had anchored the boat, whatever. And everyone's just kind of silent and just sitting there drinking and just taking in the vibes. And I turn to the two ladies and I go, so what'd you ladies think about the new Space Jam? And yeah, and it absolutely killed in my mind. Like I thought that is the most. No, I was doing it because I was like, this is the most absurd thing I could ask. Like,
no, I'm so proud of you. I'm laughing because I'm proud. I'm like, my boy.
They both looked at me like, what the hell are you talking about? Which is the exact reaction I wanted. So all you guys out there looking for a classic zinger, that one kills. When the moment is like just right, just like turn and be like, so new Space Jam, your thoughts? And
that I respect that. You should have led. You told me the story of the boat on Monday, but you actually should have led with that. You asked two ladies on the boat what they thought of
the new Space Jam.
The new Space Jam.
Yeah.
Man. Well, when it comes to LeBron, like, it was so refreshing to have the storyline not be him. Like,
Yeah.
I have to say that whether it was Chris Paul, whether we were tricking ourselves into Chris Paul, and I was joking yesterday when we were planning this, I was like, we did villains to heroes. Should we just go heroes to villains and have it be Chris Paul again?
Yeah.
Because that's basically what it is. But, like, I can't think, we touched on this in the beginning, I can't think of a more likable player in Giannis or even team. Like, do you think it's fair to say that the Milwaukee Bucks are pretty much the most lovable overall team right now?
They check a lot of boxes, Charlotte. Certainly Giannis helps a lot. Like, your superstar has to be likable. And like I said, I think Giannis might be the most likable. Recency bias, I know, but
no, I don't even think so.
I hope he doesn't ruin it. I mean, when Giannis asked for a trade to the Lakers in 4 years, I'm going to be so devastated. But right now, this moment in time, he might be the most likable superstar of any sport. I cannot believe how the picture of him flexing and every vein on his body is popping out, and he's just like so hard, and he's trying to make like the hardest face in the world, and then he tweets it and he puts "I almost pooped" as his caption. Are you kidding me?
I mean, it doesn't get better than that. And I found myself like tearing up when he was walking around with his two cell phones and his champagne goggles on.
Yes.
I was like, why am I so moved? Why is this the sweet? And he picked up his kid, and I was just like bawling.
You know how likable he is that he gave that speech about the humility and the ego and pride and whatever. And I think there are very few athletes that can do that. And the cynical people that we are, especially like the people that spend any time on the internet, there are very few athletes that could give a speech like that, and all of us just be like, "Wow, that's really awesome." Like if like imagine JJ Watt saying that exact same thing, how much he would get killed for that.
We'd be like, "What a corn dog!
What a loser, JJ! What a Russell Wilson's up there, and he's like, I've always thought that when I look in the rear view mirror, that's my ego." And everyone would be like, okay, loser.
We would,
like,
what we would be
about,
saying on this podcast if Russell Wilson or one of those corny guys had said it. We'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, put that over a picture of nature with an inspirational post. Yeah. We'd be like, okay, did you get that from Google, Russ?
Yes. But
and
Giannis,
instead, Giannis.
It's so authentic. That's the thing. Is like you don't feel like he's saying that to be because he did the calculation that his Q score would go up 1.5 points if he pretends to be humble, or you know what I mean? Like it's just so genuine and authentic with that guy. And also, by the way, today, the morning after winning the title, he goes to Chick-fil-A, he's on Instagram Live and orders a 50-piece chicken nugget or chicken mini, whatever it was. I don't want 41 or 49. I don't want 51. I want 50. Hilarious. The guy's absolutely
so
hilarious.
Good.
It's so lovable. But yeah, to your point about the Bucks in general, Giannis obviously very lovable. The fact that they have one top 10 pick on the entire, one lottery pick on the entire roster, and Lopez, he was taking 10th. The rest of the guys are all like, not that they were not supposed to be here type dudes, but it's not. This is the furthest thing from a super team you could find, Charlotte.
What was Chris Middleton's? What was his pick or his story? I'm blanking right now.
Wasn't he second? He was second round, I believe.
He was second round.
Yeah.
I was gonna say second round or fifth round, and I was like, I think it's second.
He was a good college player. Like I definitely remember Chris Middleton in college, but he was not a guy that like as you're preparing for the NBA draft, that you're saying to yourself like, keep an eye on Chris Middleton. Yeah, he was 39th overall in 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then didn't Bobby Portis like go home and work out with his mom before? Like he wasn't even on. Also, Bobby, can we talk about Bobby Portis for a second? He's this huge dude. he's got sort of, I don't know if he looks a little off his rocker, and then when he did that little what do you call it, a little like jump step, like
high stepping
down
the court,
when he was high stepping down the court, and then gets on the mic after for the celebration, and he's chanting like, "Let's go Bucks," in like the most awkward way possible. I was like, this is the Bobby Portis game. This is everything we've ever wanted from this specimen.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
Where did this guy come from? You watch him and you're like, what? How is he so enjoyable?
Yes, it reminds me of like watching NCAA tournaments where there's always like guys that pop up and you're like, who the hell is this guy? Like, I've been watching college basketball all season. I've never once seen this guy, and he's out there killing and out there like he's so like, man, I wish I would have known about this guy. Bobby Portis has been around. He was on the Bulls. Like, people that if you're really into the NBA. He's not exactly like a guy that came out of nowhere, but close enough. You know what I mean? Like it still checks that. It still scratches that itch of like, what? Where's this guy from? Who is this guy? And why is he? You know, why does everybody love him? What's going on here? Where did this come from? There's that. Pat Connaughton, by the way, is a very. I remember him at Notre Dame. He played baseball at Notre Dame, by the way. Like he could probably be in the majors. Playing
he
baseball.
had offers to play baseball.
Yes, and he stuck with basketball, which like probably like if we're all being honest and we looked at it, we're like, all right, you're what, 6'5" white dude? Like, why would you pick basketball over baseball? Like that doesn't make. And then look at him now, NBA champion. Suck it, haters.
He had the last laugh.
Drew Holiday, by the way, super like one of the nicest guys in the world. Drew Holiday is. I don't know. He checks all the boxes as well of like a guy, a defensive first point guard that isn't trying to. I mean, I want to say he's not trying to hunt shots, but some of these games he really was just like jacking it up. I should say. Last night he was kind of, but you know what I mean.
His turnover, his steal from Booker, where he just has this like beautiful clutch moment, and then he can feed the alley-oop to Giannis. Like
Drew
that's
Holiday,
what you want.
If you search Google Drew Holiday complaining. On Google, you get zero results. Drew Holiday is not one of those NBA guys that's like, I'm forcing this trade out of here. I demand more money. This is garbage. I need more. He's just like a guy that makes him likable. You know that like he's one of those types of basketball players and just an all around good dude off the court too. So I think that it's all of that. And then throw in Coach Bud, who anytime this guy gets mentioned. Oh my God! I've never seen an NBA champion coach get killed more on the internet than Budenholzer. Like every time.
Every other tweet is like his job isn't safe.
Yes,
it's like, is he going to be fired?
Yes.
And then it's like they're not doing badly.
Yes, and I guess people aren't wrong. Like if the Bucks probably would have lost to the Nets, he probably would have been fired. But at the same time, I'm not saying that like the takes were wrong because. They probably weren't, like at the time, you know, that is where he stood within the organization, but it just makes him likable in that sense that like this is a guy that just gets crapped on left and right and gets told that like you suck at this, dude, and you're never going to win the title, and Giannis is a generational talent and you're not going to do anything with it, and on and on and on. And even as the series started and they're down 0-2 and it's like, God, is this guy capable of making adjustments? Is he capable of doing anything right? Look at him now, NBA champion. So I don't know, Charlotte. I do think I think you're right. This is one of the more likable teams, one of the more likable NBA champions I can ever remember. Honestly, like I think the Mavericks when they won it with Dirk, when they beat the Heat, the LeBron Heat, like that year was pretty cool too. Like that's the vibe I'm getting from the Bucks doing it here.
Same, and I feel like we were a little blinded to it, you know, and I think probably it had to do with, you know, you don't want to get your hopes up if Giannis isn't going to be healthy. So I think there's hedging in the case of Chris Paul, and there's also emotional hedging in the case of not getting our hopes up for Giannis on some level. But watching all these guys yesterday, I was like, how did I not? And I know any Bucks fan listening to this is going to be like, oh, we knew the whole time.
We were
like, yes,
there all
I know.
along. Yeah.
I know you did. But I mean, from like a national perspective, if you're just a basketball fan, like it really just hit me last night how lovable this team is. And even it sort of makes all of the jokes more fun. Like even Budenholzer looking like a dad leaving the golf course after like a disappointing round, vibe that he has, you're sort of like, and then Giannis saying like, I love you. I mean, the whole thing was just
Giannis won the title, and in his post-game press conference, he had the shirt of my understanding was that he had an I love and then a picture of a guy's face, and I think it was the Bucks like their little local broadcaster that was retiring this year. The guy that's been around, I don't remember his name. I should have done better research.
Are you serious? I missed that.
Yeah, he wore a shirt that just said like he's holding the trophy. The post-game press conference says, "I love the guys," and
Oh my God.
unbelievable.
I'm gonna
right?
tear up all
in
over
that
again.
moment of triumph, and the Bucks were. Giannis, he's only 26. He's not a guy that was. I don't think he'd been tabbed with the. He's never gonna win the title. He hadn't been hit with that yet. He's not old enough. But there definitely was a sense that we were getting close to that territory with the Bucks because Giannis can't shoot free. There was like concerns about can Giannis close games, and I guess those concerns are semi fair because honestly the whole finals like Chris Middleton was the guy they would give the ball to hit the big shot.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there was a fear of like Giannis is a great regular season player, but can he close games in the playoffs? Can a defensive minded team like the Bucks win? In the NBA, where the NBA is like like the Warriors kind of ushered in this new era of like jump shots and pace and space and all that kind of stuff. Can an old school team like the Bucks like win in this era? All of that was forming, Charlotte. It was like a hurricane just slowly starting to form, and we were a year or two away from the Bucks losing in the second round, losing in the East Finals, whatever. That everyone is going to say that this can't happen, and I don't know. That's what makes it so lovable too. Is I kind of saw that coming. I saw that like this was a narrative that was forming if it wasn't already formed, and it makes it like it. They really. I said it at the top. I genuinely am so excited because I believe I want to watch the NBA again. Like I'm this isn't hyperbole to me. I genuinely believe for me. This is for me talking. I'm not talking
For
about
small
the rest
market
of
Mark.
Small market Mark. Everyone's free to have your own opinion. I'm not speaking for the country. I'm speaking for myself. Kevin Durant killed the NBA in 2016 when he joined the Warriors. He did. The 2016 was the greatest NBA season of my lifetime. I had never been more in on the NBA. The Cavs, another small market team, take down the giant. It feels weird to call the Cavs an underdog when you have LeBron in your team, but they were. They beat a 73-win team in Game 7 on the road. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. This was the coolest thing I've ever seen. 3 weeks later, less than that, Kevin Durant's like, I'm joining the 73-win team. And I said, NBA sucks. And it's been 5 years, Charlotte, of super teams being formed, guys demanding trades, just kind of all the worst stuff that makes me feel like a boomer when I complain about the NBA because I'm like, this sucks. Like the player empowerment era, which is great for the players, and I go get your money, go get what it like. I'm all for people like wanting to better their lives, but at the same time, it makes the product garbage, and I hate this, and this is so stupid, and guys are sitting out game. And for 5 years, Charlotte, I was like, will I ever love the NBA again? And last night, when I'm watching Giannis Antetokounmpo win the MVP, score 50 points, hit all of his free throws. I'm watching the Deer District lose their mind. People in Milwaukee are hugging each other. Like, you just know, like, grandsons are calling grandpa, saying, we did it, grandpa. And, like, all of those emotions started bubbling up, and I thought, Giannis just saved the NBA for me. I'm back in. Like, because he proved that it's possible. He proved that you can get Chris Middleton and him, like, two guys that nobody wanted. Like, Giannis was, they were showing, like, the draft highlights of when he was drafted, and he's coming down, like, when he goes onto the stage when he's drafted, he's coming down from the crowd because he wasn't invited to the draft. He went there on his own. And he's coming down and you're just watching that whole scene and you're like, yes, it can happen. You can, there is hope. If you're the Detroit Pistons and you're watching this, you're saying to yourself, we can draft Cade Cunningham. We can make Cade Cunningham happy. And maybe someday we can win an NBA championship. It's possible. Oklahoma City fans are watching that and they're like, oh my God, if like our city, people might think our city sucks, but like Milwaukee's not better than us. Like, you know, and if they can do it, we can do it. And it makes me so happy. Small market Mark is beaming.
I'm so happy. It makes me so happy to hear you say that. And I also think that in addition to giving fans hope and giving small markets hope that, like, okay, if Milwaukee can do it, if Giannis can choose to stay there, if that's an option, if that's possible, I think it also kind of gives players the leeway to say, hold on, wait a second. If I'm worried about my legacy, because, you know, athletes will say they're not, but who isn't? I'm worried about my legacy and I'm not an athlete. Like, if you see the love and the devotion that Giannis has from fans, from the nation sort of at large, maybe you start thinking, hey, wait a second, what if it would be more satisfying or just as satisfying to win in a smaller place, to be a massive fish in a smaller pond, still playing against all the other big fish in the big ponds? Like, there's something kind of cool about that. And I wonder if Giannis doing it, and if Chris Middleton doing it, and if this sort of ragtag group of, lovable sports guys are going to make that option more attractive.
I don't think they are. That's the bummer of this.
Do you not?
Because I genuinely think this, again, this is going to sound like I'm just like a super old man, but I genuinely believe this in my heart that your average NBA player, NBA superstar, I don't know how to phrase it. Like, I don't think guys care about basketball that much. I genuinely don't. I believe that guys, like, they love the lifestyle. They love being famous. They love being rich. They love winning, because winning then affords them an awesome life. And I'm not talking about every guy. There are obviously exceptions, but to the point I want to make is that, like, Giannis is an obvious exception, and that's what makes it so cool. Is like, this guy you could pick he would play and pick a shitty city in this country, and if that's where he got drafted, he's like, I don't care. I just like love competing. He's not. You don't get the feeling that he's like friends with guys on the other team, which I don't need this to be. I don't need all the players to hate each other, but there is something as a fan that you're like watching that where like guys are chummy with each other all the time, and you're like, what am I watching here? Like, what
makes it feel more like an act of when they compete.
It feels like they're pulling a con on us, the fans, that they're like we're orchestrating this deal where we can just like convince these people that we care about this or that, and then we'll all meet up at the club later tonight and high five each other and count our money. Like, that's the vibe you get sometimes. And to have guys like Giannis come along and you're like, oh, this guy, it just, I don't know. It feels.
I guess I hear what you're saying, and I think that you're probably right. I guess my question is, I think that people are largely very dumb. And I think that I am very dumb in the sense that, like, when you see someone do something that seems cool, you think, maybe I should do that, and I wonder if Giannis is such a shining example of like, oh, that's an option, that it will sort of turn the tables of what is seen as cool, or, and maybe not. This could be very, Pollyanna, naive, ever hopeful Charlotte of me, but I do wonder if there isn't a slight bit of that maybe even if only a few guys go in that direction, we'll see that become like, oh, okay, of course you can do it with a super team, or like, of course you can do it in New York, or not New York, but LA. And it's like, well, what if you could do it somewhere else too? Maybe that's like a cooler, and who's to say? But I do think that was an interesting.
You know what I'm wondering now that I'm thinking about it is it an American versus international deal where, like, something about the American basketball player is raised to desire certain things because of, I don't know. I have to piece that together because I'm thinking about other guys that I believe will, like, I think of Jokic at Denver. Like, I could be wrong, but it feels to me like Jokic will be at Denver. He's like, I don't care where I play. Like, I just, like, whatever. He gives me that vibe too, where he just wants to. He wants to come over, play basketball, and then the offseason go back and wrestle bears or whatever the hell he does back home. And you just see pictures of him like smoking cigarettes and riding tricycles or whatever. You're like, what the hell is this guy's offseason? And you realize, like, he's not trying to play in Miami. He doesn't want that life.
I'm just laughing because I had this vision in my head of like scouts for small market teams going over and like brainwashing young basketball players to be like, the hottest cities in America are actually Milwaukee, Denver, Oklahoma City,
Indianapolis,
and Indianapolis. Detroit also very hot.
That's where you want to be.
Famous people live there. Just like all these international guys who don't know American geography well enough to know that those aren't like the big market.
Right. I don't know. I'm still piecing together that theory, but I do that is kind of disheartening to me sometimes, because I do feel that way, that like guys play basketball so they can. I don't know, but at the same time, I understand that's hypocritical because I don't live to work. I work to live too. So like, I kind of get it, but I don't know. That's always the debate I have with myself, Charlotte, about like player empowerment stuff. Is like, I obviously understand the motivations. I think guys should, you have the right to want to better your life, make yourself happy, do what's best for yourself, your family, et cetera, et cetera. But in my mind, there's kind of no denying that like when when you start stacking those decisions up, it makes the product worse. If you know what I mean. So there's like the balance that has to happen of like, and I feel like the thing got thrown, the balance, it was imbalanced, Charlotte. That guys were good for them. They were making great decisions for themselves. But when I looked up the product that was the NBA, was not appealing to me whatsoever. And now I feel like it could be appealing again. If you have guys like Giannis, you have guys like Jokic, Damian Lillard, for the love of God, do not demand a trade. Just stay in Portland, please. We need it. The game needs it. Stay in Portland. Yeah, that's where I arrived with it all. So I don't know. Maybe that makes me. Maybe that makes me.
No.
Really old.
I think that what you've hit on is that this isn't a problem with individuals. This isn't about player empowerment. It's about the system got messed up somewhere. So that the product suffered because some clause or some lever wasn't pulled that would make things remain attractive to players to stay in these other teams. And I also think that on a base level, there's something kind of, romantic about sports, and that as people watching, you kind of want to believe that it was all like it was when you were little, when like people played for the love of the game, like before money got in the way. And it's like, obviously it's not like that. It's not like that for us in our lives, but like watching sports, it's very easy to project that veil of nostalgia of like, God, I wish things were simple the way they were when I was a kid.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah. And I do think, like, now that I'm hearing us talk it out, like I do think that likening professional athletes to us is stupid. It's stupid, both good and bad. It's stupid to like give them the benefit of the doubt and be like, well, if I had my druthers, I'd want to live in downtown Manhattan and, like as opposed to Oklahoma City. So like, I don't,
right.
how could I fault it? That's stupid. But also it's stupid, like in their favor, where like, a fight breaks out on the court and then you're the guy that's like, if I punch my coworker, I would be in prison for the next, like guys that say like that's stupid. So I think like the whole, so maybe just don't do that at all, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. I
well,
just
it's a
know
question
that,
of like,
I just know that, and I have come to the conclusion that there's like a right way to win a championship, and the Milwaukee Bucks did it the right way. And I don't care.
That's what
and as you said, like it means more. Like Giannis winning that title and Dirk winning for the Mavs is worth like 5 titles. That if Kevin Durant goes on to win 5 titles between the Warriors and the Nets and all that, like Giannis's one will mean more to me as a fan than anything Durant does, unless he like basically goes back to Oklahoma City and it's like, all right, it's come full circle. I'm going to do my LeBron.
Rolls up his sleeves. He's like, okay, let's go.
I'm going to do a LeBron move, go back to the original team and try to lead this garbage franchise to a title here. I don't know. So that's I believe in the NBA again, though, Charlotte. That's all I want to say.
That's all
I
that
believe
matters.
in the NBA. So
that's all. I'm so happy. Look at you smiling. I think this might be the most genuinely happy I've ever seen.
I just picture Adam Silver somewhere like tinting his fingers and just being like, we got him. We get that stupid idiot. All it took was one. He's like, you're going to have to suck on a Lakers Nets finals next year, you son of a bitch, because we gave you the one, and now I got you.
I don't care, because we have this smile, we have this podcast recorded forever. Yeah. Should we do our lists?
Please.
We have a fun one. I'm excited about these. These are guys we want to see win a championship, or girls. People we think should win rings. Mark, can you help me? I can never say this concisely.
I'm not going to say it concisely. The conceit is that we thought Chris Paul was the guy that hadn't won the ring that we wanted to see win the ring. As it turns out, it was Giannis. So these are the athletes who have not won a ring that we want to see win a ring now.
Yes.
Now that Giannis has done it, Chris Paul, spoiler alert, not on my list.
No, same. Sorry, Chris. One other thing I want to say, when you said comparing us to basketball players is stupid. Yesterday, before the finals, I played 2-on-2 basketball.
What?
Just like out on a
in real
like
life
a court
or on like
for
a
fun.
video game?
Yeah,
Oh.
no, in real life. I'm not even kidding. After 7 minutes, I was so tired that I lay down on the court, and I was like, how do they do this for so long, especially if you're over 30? Like, it was my neck, my entire back is just like killing me today. That's what I'm saying. It's very impressive what they do out there. Anyway, moving on.
I wanted to say before we do a list, Jim Paschke is the guy's name, the announcer that I mentioned earlier. So Giannis had a shirt that said like "I love Paschke," and this guy was an announcer for the Bucks for a million years, and this was his last. I guess it ends up being his last game, but this was his last season, and for Giannis to do that in that moment, because
Huge.
he didn't like, I don't know.
He didn't have to do it.
Saying. He didn't have to do it, and he did.
He didn't forget the little people.
Again, gonna break my heart in 5 years when Giannis is playing for the Heat and he wins a title and like stands up on the scores table, just pounds his chest, and he's like, "I did this." It's gonna be heartbreaking, but for now we have now. So
all I'll say is that it sounds like you're emotionally hedging right now.
I think so.
So I'm gonna write off what you just said as only that.
All right, let's get to the list.
Okay. You want to go first?
I can. Yeah, why not?
Or should I go first? I don't know.
I'll go first. I don't mind.
Okay,
I usually let you go first, but let's mix it up. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Is there a reason to?
I couldn't remember. I said that because I couldn't remember whether I usually go first or not.
I'll go first. How about that?
Great.
My number 5 on my list of guys that've never won a title that I want to see win a title now is Damian Lillard, with the caveat only if he stays in Portland. If he demands to trade, like the rumors are swirling that he's going to demand a trade, that he wants out of Portland, which I is kind of inevitable. Like I see where this is going, but for right now in this moment in time, those reports, to my knowledge, have not been fully confirmed, and he is still a Portland Trailblazer. So for right now, Damian Lillard is number 5. He would probably be higher on my list if I knew for a fact that he was going to stay in Portland the rest of his career. I love the guy. I love how hard he plays. I love how he goes about his business. I love just everything about it. He has been very consistent from the moment he entered the league that like super teams are not for him, that he's happy in Portland, that like this is where he wants to end his career. God damn it, it's going to break my heart, Charlotte.
No, I know. I'm laughing.
And I just think it'd be so cool if Damian Lillard stayed in Portland and got his Giannis moment next year, the year after, whenever it is. But also I understand that that's not happening with the teammates that he has.
We'll revisit this in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
When it all shakes out. Okay, number 5 on my list is Harry Kane.
Okay.
Nice. Because he is now lost in the semifinals or the finals in the largest club competition, the largest European international competition, and the largest global international competition. He hasn't won all of them.
Oof.
And it sucks because what is he? The captain of the English national team.
Yeah.
He's on Tottenham Hotspur.
Yep.
He is beloved, and he just keeps losing. And I looked him up. I don't think he's a bad guy, right? Like I was like, is there something bad about this guy? Like,
I just love the idea of you Googling, is Harry Kane a bad guy? And
yeah, I searched. I was like,
looks good to me.
Seems fine.
Yeah, how does that work? What do you search? Do you search like Harry Kane assault and Harry Kane?
Literally, I do.
Burned down his house with his wife maybe in it.
Yes, I search.
No results.
I search really horrible things, and when I'm like, no results, okay, I'm cool with this guy. It's so depressing.
Dude,
I'm laughing because it's depressing.
This is a shallow question that I'm sorry for asking, but it was put on my radar recently, and whatever. Is Harry Kane handsome?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I needed. All right.
I'm gonna Google. I'm gonna image.
I had a Hillary Swank on The Office.
Oh,
type situation with somebody where is Harry Kane handsome? I'm like, well, he's got good features, but also he looks very English.
That's the thing. That's why yes, he is, because when you watch him play, you're like, oh, that's a handsome dude. But then you go to Google Images and you're like, oh, definitely
here's my
looks like
argument.
a Brit.
My argument against it was that I think he's handsome because he's a world-class soccer player and like a professional athlete.
Well,
that's
but he's also, but like the reason athletes are attractive is because they're physically graceful. So like you watch them play sports if they're good at sports, and like if they're 10 times hotter.
If Harry Kane gets out of the limo on The Bachelorette, are you saying to yourself that guy might win it?
It depends how charming he is. You're like, it depends how charming this guy is. Let's put it that way.
All right. Number 4 on my list is a man by the name of Ricky Fowler, who has been playing professional golf for quite some time and has never in his career, Charlotte, won a major championship.
I love this.
Ricky Fowler is here's the rundown of his best major finishes. In the Masters, he finished second in 2018. In the PGA Championship, he finished tied for third in 2014. In the U.S. Open, he finished tied for second in 2014. And in the Open Championship, a.k.a. the British Open, is what we called in America, he finished tied for second in 2014. He has finished top 3 in every single major that exists in golf. He has not won any of them. He is, to my knowledge, let me Google real quick. Ricky Fowler. What are we Googling? Bad stuff? Ricky Fowler.
I don't think he's bad.
Bad guy.
I don't think he's bad.
No, not a bad guy, according to Google. Yeah, he's awesome. Like every time I see him do an interview or see, maybe again, you get cynical because you never know how much of it's PR spin or whatever. But he seems pretty genuine to me. The picture, the famous picture of all the guys kissing their girlfriends or wives or whatever, and he's just shrugging his shoulders on the Ryder Cup team.
Yes.
I think that kind of endeared him to me forever. I remember when he got on the PGA Tour and he was kind of just looked like a snot-nosed dude that would wear orange and looked like a Justin Bieber wannabe. And like, I thought he would be just the biggest punk ever.
Yeah.
And then I went to a PGA event in Columbus and I was there it was actually practice. It was one of the practice rounds before the Memorial in Columbus, Ohio. And I was just walking around. There weren't a ton of fans there because this is a practice round. And I watched Ricky Fowler. Every single kid that came up to that guy, he would not just like stop and shake their hand and talk to him. He would like give them as much time as they wanted in the middle of his round. Like he's playing a hole,
sweet.
and then he's trying to go over to tee off on the next hole, but he stops, hands a kid a thing, signs an autograph, asks where you're from, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I might be wrong about this guy. He might not be a snot-nosed, punk. Yeah, he might actually be a good dude. So I've always cheered for him. I've always liked him, but also he's never won a major. So I would like to see Ricky Fowler get his moment in the sun.
I would love that too. It's also been about 5 years since he's finished pretty highly.
Yeah, it's been a while. I feel if it's gonna happen, I feel like a Sergio Garcia type deal where he won the Masters, right? Sergio came back and won the Masters, like when it felt like he was kind of done. I would love that for Ricky Fowler. That just like you look up and you're like, oh my God, is that Ricky Fowler again? And he's killing it. Wow.
He also is the one who has like that horrible hat tan all of the time.
He does, yeah.
Isn't he?
I mean, all of them do, but
I know, but Ricky's is like awful, and I loved. That's why I love it. I'm gonna be honest.
I just love that. You should do. This is a great blog post idea for you or something. Do an article of breaking down. Just find pictures of golfers with their hats off and all the tan lines, and just break down like who's got what's the funniest picture of a golfer tan line you can possibly find on the internet.
Oh my God, Mark, I'm doing that. I'm writing this next week. I'm gonna go from like a very serious, long, very involved reported softball story and be like, who has the best sock tan on the PGA Tour? Done. All right, number 4 on mine is Lamar Jackson, and this might be a surprising pick because I think that he's young still. He's what, 26, 27? Like he's sort of, but the reason I'm putting him on my list is because I think he falls into the Giannis camp. I think everybody agrees that he's wildly talented, and he's also been MVP. But it's getting dangerously close to, like, I hate when people say he can't play well in the playoffs. I hate it so much. I think that it's a manufactured narrative, but I also think that the more he starts not winning stuff, the more that's gonna, and it's gonna be hard to, you're like, and you're like, football's a team sport, and it's like, well, then how did the other great guys do it? So I want this for Lamar because I love Lamar, and I don't want that narrative to take hold. And I also think it would be really fun to have this be the beginning of his story, the way it's sort of the beginning of Giannis's, of like, how many can he win, as opposed to like, please, for the love of God.
I forget, did Giannis, Lamar, did he say he had to poop against the Browns or not? I forget. He was trying to say he definitely didn't poop. I
think he claimed he was like, I really didn't, but he was like joking around and having fun with it enough that I was like, I think if he had to, he would tell us.
Okay.
Like he was fun about it.
Because if Lamar would have come out in that press conference and been like, yeah, I had to poop, it would be him and Giannis.
He'd be my favorite NFL player forever.
Yeah. But like Giannis too, I think part of the reason that discussion of can he do it in the playoffs, even though he's still young, is because of how he plays. It's so radically different. He plays a position so different from everybody else that you start wondering, like, is there something about your style, and do you need to change your style? And Giannis says, no, I don't. In fact, here's a championship to prove it.
Yes,
and maybe
exactly.
Lamar we'll see. I don't know.
So that would be nice.
So that would be nice.
So that would be nice.
Number 3 for me is a man who has now found himself as the second best player on his own team, but is somehow might be the best player in the history of the sport he plays. His name is Mike Trout, and he has made the playoffs one time in his career, and he got swept immediately. This has always been the discussion around Mike Trout, is that he's as great as he is. No one knows his name. No one knows his face. He's not marketable, et cetera, et cetera. And part of that is because, one, he plays in Anaheim, which isn't even the cool part of LA. Like, the Dodgers are the only team that really matter to the people of Southern California. Number 2, he never plays in the playoffs. So the national audience never really is watching Mike Trout. We never have a unified moment where we're all watching Mike Trout play baseball. Be that as it may, he's a good guy. To my knowledge, again, should I do the Google search?
No. I searched it. I've already searched Mike Trout.
Mike Trout is a
He loves his wife, and the only thing he ever puts on Twitter are emojis of airplanes next to where he's traveling.
He's a very boring guy, and I guess like people don't love that about him, but he's harmless and he's an awesome baseball. He's so fun to watch. Like, the way the guy plays baseball is insane. He's good at everything. He's literally good at everything there is to do on a baseball field. And I think it'd be so cool for him and Ohtani to figure out a way to. I don't know how it's going to happen, because you want to talk about a team sport, baseball truly is. Mike Trout can't. If Mike Trout and Ohtani could play every position, I'm sure Joe Madden would try it.
Maybe they could.
Joe Madden would be the guy to try it. To just be
he
like,
would. He'd be like,
we're going to put Mike Trout in center field. Ohtani, you pitch and just play the infield. Trout, you take the outfield. And we're just going to bat you guys 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 over and over.
Yes.
And we're going to have no catcher. We're just going to just throw it at the umpire's balls. And Ohtani. Let's see how many games we can win doing that. Yeah, I want to see Trout. A World Series feels pretty ambitious at this point, because the guy hasn't even won a playoff game yet. But
no, but I believe when he gets healthy.
Yeah, he's on my list. Number 3. So number 3 for you.
Number 3 for me is Henrik Lundqvist, the most handsome hockey player of all time after Patrick Sharp, maybe tied with Patrick Sharp. He is not technically retired, because I know everyone's going to be like, isn't he retired? No, he went to the Capitals for a season after a very long career with the New York Rangers. He has 61 playoff wins, which is the most among active goalies right now. And he stepped away from the game because he's having some heart issues. So he very well could be done forever, but he also very well could not. And I think that of all the guys in hockey, I would like to see this very handsome man.
Are you reporting this, by the way, that he could be done forever, but he very well could not be done? Are you reporting, or are you just speculating?
I mean, I'm reporting what I read on the internet. I'm saying that because I wanted to put him on my list, and I didn't want him to be retired.
Don't retire. Please don't.
Please don't retire.
Hockey guys winning the cup, I think that's the most satisfying. At the old NBA feels like it's a close second, but I think hockey is definitely number one. Of like seeing a guy who's like 38 finally win his first Stanley Cup.
It's so good.
The way they hold that
thing.
Like,
they look like they're 60, first of all.
Yeah.
The 38-year-old hockey players look like they are someone's grandfather, and they're out there on skates.
They treat the Stanley Cup too like it is a family heirloom that was like on a ship that was sunk in the Atlantic Ocean, and like someone found the cup, and they're like, we found it, and they're like, oh my god, and the way they hold that thing is like, I can't believe.
The Stanley Cup is the necklace at the end of Titanic.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
Yes, it is. And they're holding on to it, and just like, oh my! And it's always a great scene when old dudes that have never won it win the Stanley Cup. So I like that pick. That's a good pick.
Thank you.
Speaking of guys that may or may not be retired, at number 2 on my list is Larry Fitzgerald, who is in limbo himself and has not said one way or another whether he's done. I feel like reading the tea leaves, I feel like Larry Fitzgerald's like just kind of waiting for someone who's a heavy Super Bowl favorite to say, hey Larry, come join our team. Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad. That's one situation where I'd be like, great. And I want to be like, can someone tell me who wins the Super Bowl next year, and then can they pick up Larry Fitzgerald?
all around nice dude, great dude. Been with the Cardinals forever. Is the best? He's got to be the best Cardinals player of all time, right? Like he is the
easily.
guy. He's the
Right?
guy. He is,
I
he
can't
is the
name
Arizona
another
Cardinal.
one, so.
He is the Arizona Cardinal. And maybe that's part of it. Is like he doesn't want to just be blatantly. I want out of Arizona like Aaron Rodgers is with the Packers. So he's like, I'm kind of semi-retired in hopes that like the Cardinals, he's trying to do something where like the Cardinals move on without him. And then he's like, you know what? Maybe
He
I'm
wants
not...
them to break up with him.
Yes. So the moment they break up with him, he's like, you know what? I've given it a lot of thought. I don't think I want to retire. But you
I'm gonna
guys
get
don't
back out there.
Shucks, you guys don't want me back though. So I guess I'm gonna go join the Chiefs. Sorry, guys.
Weird. Tom Brady gave me a call, and I wonder though. You know, they've got J.J. Watt now. They've
That's a
got
good point.
Kyler Murray.
That's a good point.
Maybe he's just waiting to see how good those guys are.
He's waiting for like Pro Football Focus to put their algorithm together to say how many wins the Cardinals are going to get this year before he decides to come back to the Cardinals.
That's it.
He's like, run the algorithms. How good are we going to be?
It's like, all right, I'll resign.
What does the NFC West look like? How good are the Niners? How good are the Rams? All right. Maybe I'll come back.
Talk to me about the Seahawks.
Oh, that's good.
That's great. I love that pick. Number 2 for me is one who is number 5 for you. I got Dame.
Oh, wow.
I really want because I want him. He is someone that I get very frustrated about sports not being fair. Where I'm like, there's no reason that this guy who is so good should not have won when other guys who are as good but not better have won. I get really pissed. I too would love to see him do it with Portland, but also I'm sort of in the camp where if he has to leave to do it somewhere else, I'm fine with that because I want him to, because I think he is such a generational talent that I just want him to have a ring so no one can be like, Dame wasn't that great.
I think it depends on where he goes now that I'm thinking about it. Like if Dame leaves Portland, he has to go somewhere likable. And what does that mean? I don't know. I think it's I was
gonna say, so where can he go?
I don't know. You feel it in your heart.
The Bucks.
No, you can't go to the team that just won the title. No, get out of here. It's like I said when we were talking about, like, I don't think Phoenix is a small market because I had the plastic surgery idea where I was like, I feel that way about like the team that Dame can go to. You just kind of like, I don't want to. It's just a feeling. It's just like you know when you see the headline and whether or not like, because weirdly, if Dame went to the Knicks, I think that plays. I think if Damian Lillard goes to the Knicks. Yes. I think that plays.
The problem is he wouldn't have anyone to pass the ball to because they'd have to give up their entire team to get him.
I know. But it's not a small market, big market thing, I don't think. Because, if he went to the Bucks, that's garbage, and I hate that. Because they just won the title, you know? Right. But if he goes to the Knicks, if he goes to New York, I don't have a problem with it because it's the Knicks, and they are the Knicks. So I don't know. I'll know it when I see it, Charlotte, but I think that matters. It's like what franchise Damian Lillard ends up going to. If he goes to the Brooklyn Nets or the Lakers or like the Miami Heat.
Those are the only two, I think. I think even the Heat at this point, if he and Jimmy Butler played together, I'd be psyched about that.
The Heat, I think the Heat, it's just that I think you're right. I think I would
think it's really just LA and the Nets that we don't want him to go to.
The Lakers and Nets are the two. Yeah.
Yes.
Or if he forms his own super team somehow, which he can't because the Portland kind of has the control, right? Like if we're more or less, or do they? I don't even know how the NBA works anymore. You could just kind of say like, I want to be traded here, and they do it.
I never knew how the NBA works, so I have no idea.
What about the Sixers? Ben Simmons for Damian Lillard type trade.
I think that's most likely.
But where do we land on
except that Philly teams.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Where do we land on that if like he gets traded to the Sixers and wins the title?
Not for him. I'd be a little bummed that I'd have to I would be bummed because it would mean the Sixers had to win a championship for Dame to get one, but I would be happy for him and I would support him in that.
Yeah. What about like the Wizards for Russell Westbrook? He swaps and him and Bradley Beal. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like where I
irrationally hate DC teams and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Probably because I lived there for a year. And I was not the happiest camper.
Sounds pretty rational to me.
All right, there you go.
Number one for me is a pretty biased pick, but I don't care. I'm gonna say it anyway. Mike Conley, my former teammate, who is the greatest teammate I've ever had, maybe the greatest human being to ever be a professional athlete. I love this man so much. He is the nicest guy you will ever meet. He is you can't say enough good things about him, and he was stuck in Memphis forever, which Memphis fans, Lovely city, lovely franchise. They love their team, but you also know that like Mike Conley was stuck in Memphis. This is why the franchise traded him to Utah in the first place, because you said, Mike, go win a championship. You did it with Marc Gasol too. Go to Toronto, win a championship. We appreciate all you've done for us. He goes to Utah. They were the 1 seed this year. They choke in historic fashion against the Clippers. One of the worst collapses we've ever seen in an NBA playoff game, certainly in a closeout game like that. It was unbelievable how bad they choked against the Clippers. Now Mike's a free agent. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what he's thinking. My fear is that he might sign with the Lakers or the Nets or something.
But you won't be mad because it's Mike.
I won't be mad because it's Mike, and I'll just be. If he comes to LA, I'm gonna go to every single game and like paint my chest and be like, "Let's go!" I'm gonna be the guy like dangling the chain that's like Lakers. You know that guy.
You're gonna make Mike buy you a boat. Is what you're gonna do if he goes to LA. You're gonna have him move into your building and you're gonna have him buy a boat.
Mike Conley is he deserves so much more than he's gotten in his career, and he's too nice of a guy to ask for it. He should be on the Olympic team. It makes no sense whatsoever that this man has never played in one of the Olympics, because he is the perfect FIBA point guard. I don't understand why he's never been invited there. He got invited. He finally made an All-Star game this year because enough guys like backed out or got hurt or whatever happened. And that's stupid. And if Mike Conley was like a little bit meaner, he would have made 4 All-Star games. He would have a gold medal already. You know, and he's just like too nice of a guy. He never asked for it. He's never like, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. No, that's fine. Good luck to you guys in the Olympics, whatever. And he's never in a post-game press conference like, why the hell am I not in the All-Star game? This is stupid.
Right.
And I have to do it for him. Get Mike Conley a championship. Sign him with the Lakers. Let's go.
There we go. You know, I almost put him on my list, and our producers were like,
You don't have to.
You need to. And it's because we have enough overlapping already that I'm like, I see. I was pandering.
I have an idea who your number one might be.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Mike Trout.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Shohei Ohtani. And Shohei he's got time, but I want them to do it together. And it's absurd to me that Trout hasn't won a playoff game. This is a man who do you know how much he loves the weather?
No.
He loves weather. He's tweeting about weather. He has videos of storms. He like films himself driving in the rain. Like, this man is sort of a low-key, boring national treasure. And you can't say, everyone's like, he's the best player in baseball, but no one cares about him. And it's like, well, maybe if we get him into enough postseason games, then people are going to start caring. So I just want this for him, and I want him to do it with our favorite player, Ohtani. Mm-hmm. And that's all I have to say about that. Also, does Mike Conley have a German Shepherd, or did I make that up?
Oh, no, he does. Did we talk about this on the show already?
I don't remember if we talked about it on the show or if you just told me.
No, yeah, he has a German Shepherd, and his father, my understanding, or at least I don't know how to say it. I think his dad trains them or breeds them or something. Yeah, I think I told you that story.
You told me, and you were like, you didn't know that his dad, because you said like, oh, your dog's so well trained. And
yeah, he's like,
he was
duh.
Yeah, obviously.
And then I said something. I think I talked to Greg Oden about it. And I was like, did you know that like Mike's dad? Like, he's like, yeah, what the hell, dude? Like, we grew up with the guy. You don't remember? I was like, no. How does that?
That's a wild thing to not know.
And then I just kept calling like every mutual friend, like trying to get someone to be like, what? And every single person's like, how do you not know that, dude? And I'm like, what is happening here?
I think about that every time I see Mike play.
Big German Shepherd guy. So there you go.
Same.
Great list. Who's the most likely of all the guys that we put on our list? Who's the most likely to get it done first? Let me think about it.
I think Trout.
I think Mike Conley going to the Lakers and winning the title next year.
There you go. It's not going to be Ricky Fowler.
It's not going to be Ricky Fowler, but it might. Like, the thing about golf is that it's like sneaky how it just guys,
it could be?
You know, like, guys just kind of come out of nowhere. Like, all it could take for Ricky Fowler is like, I'm going to take the next 3 months and like care about golf again. And then like he shows up and like he's great. You're like, that's all it took the whole time.
Also, Ricky Fowler, don't he and Jordan Spieth and one other guy always go on these like boat trips in Hawaii?
Yeah.
So maybe if he like takes one less boat trip, then he'll be back in action. Phil won at 50, so like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, but that seems to be a theme with golf though. Is like guys just kind of disappear and then they come back. That's why I think it's easier because you don't have to like to win a title. It's an individual sport. 1, 2, the team sports you have to be good all year to even make the playoffs to then win it. Golf, it's like you just get hot for 4 days and win the thing.
Yeah,
and go back to boat trips. That's all it took. I just wanted one. Just wanted to get hot for 4 days.
It's like me playing basketball, hot for one day.
For 7 minutes.
Oof. Do you play anymore?
I just agreed to play in a men's league starting in August, so we'll see.
Well,
how
it
that
is
goes.
exhausting, so buckle up.
Yeah, it's tough.
I don't know if you know this, but basketball is very tiring, Mark.
Really interesting. Interesting. It makes you wonder
You're
how
gonna
I
be sore.
how did I play my whole life and still be fat? That's
I don't know, man. Because I
modern
think I
marvel.
lost 10 pounds playing for 7
I think
minutes.
that is
That's like impressive.
I need science to explain that to me. How did I play basketball my whole life and I was always
Let me ask you a
chubby?
question. What were you eating?
That's a good question. Garbage.
There it is.
Garbage
Mashed
at all
potatoes.
time. Mashed potatoes and steak. And bread and butter and various other things. Anything else before we go? Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah, just one thing. We have two things. Sorry. We have a new producer. We have Mr. Jim Cunningham, who both you and I
Yep.
have worked with before. We are huge Jim Cunningham fans. There is a picture of producer Jim wearing his outfit making fun of Suns fans, and that's a wig under the jersey. Those of you who can't see, we will tweet this out as a formal welcome.
Yeah, he's got chest hair. He's got a wig for chest. This is how Jim's brain works. Is that Jim has more wigs than any human being I've ever met, just because he wants to. You never know when you're gonna need to take a picture of yourself posing as a Suns fan.
You never know.
Yeah, Jim is he has been hired at Fox Sports. He's going to be helping out our show. He's helping out my show with Tate Frazier called Titus and Tate. And I'm very excited because Jim is. I will say this. I would never say this to his face. He's not. I think he's cut out of this call. I don't think he's listening right now. So
No,
I'll
he
say it.
is super on it.
Oh, well, never mind. I take it back.
Now
I'm
you
not
have
gonna
to say it. You have to say it.
Jim,
you want me to say it?
Jim is the one person I've ever worked with in my life that I have no problem saying is more creative than I am and funnier than I am and all that. Like to be fair, there are a lot of people that are more creative that I've worked with and are funnier. But if you said that to my face, I would be offended. And Jim is the one guy that I would be like, I'll give it to him. Yeah, you're probably right. You know?
Yeah, well, I mean,
If you said like Tate was more creative than me, I'd be like, no, hang on a second. You know, like I would fight you
you're
on
like,
it.
Charlotte's way funnier. Mark's
Yeah,
like, all right, I'm done.
No,
The
she's
show's
not.
over.
No. Jim's the one person I'm like, yeah, I'll give it to him. He definitely is. So I'm excited to have him on board and see if the show gets a little more insane in the coming
blame
weeks.
Jim.
It's Jim's fault. So there you
Also,
go.
Jim knows more about sports than I've ever forgotten. So, I mean, no, Jim's forgotten more about sports than I have ever known.
He switched the flip. Is that what you said? He switched the.
Something's going on with my brain. Also, watching the finals last night, I realized I think I need glasses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't read the word. I'm getting old. Anyway, one other
You didn't
thing.
know the
Jeff
Bucks
Bezos
won
went
until like
to-
a half an hour after the game was
I was
over.
like, I can't see. I was watching TV like this. I was like, also, Jeff Bezos went to space, and I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's
same.
sports.
I
I felt like watching Jeff Bezos go to space. I was like, this is sports. I was like, Jeff Bezos I feel like this should be somehow on ESPN and Fox Sports and NBC Sport. Like every major sports network somehow should be covering it, and we should be talking about how awful it is.
Well-
we should give Jeff Bezos going to space the sports media treatment, which is to say it's garbage, and who wears a goddamn cowboy hat? Like, what
I don't
is it?
understand.
And he rides a giant penis into space, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, what an innovation. And it's like,
Now, hang on a second. Was he even in space? Or was it?
Yeah,
did he
he
just
was-
get the penis? Was it just the tip? Because it felt like it felt Charlotte. You remember the guy a few years ago who? You remember the guy a few years ago who went up really high in space and then skydived?
yeah, the Oracle guy who jumped
Yeah.
out of space into
He jumped
the
out
Earth.
and then skydived, and we all watched it, and we're like, "Why are we watching this?" And it's like, "Cause this is America, and this is how this works. Is like once a year, some stupid special like this happens, and we all watch a guy in jeans tightrope across the Grand Canyon or something. I don't know. Just watch the damn thing. Watch Joey Chestnut eat the hot dogs. Don't ask questions." And this guy was skydiving, and I'm pretty sure, I don't have the math to back this up, but I'm pretty sure Jeff Bezos went to like the exact same height that this guy skydived out of. That doesn't count as space.
No, it's like, what a little bitch. You were in a giant metal dick, and someone else jumped out of a capsule
Yeah.
with just a suit on.
Yes.
Like, and you come down and you think you're so cool, and you're wearing your stupid little hat, and you're
And-
like,
I I don't know. I was fired up about it. And then the other thing, like somewhere in the Illuminati newsletter that Jeff Bezos sent out to all his fellow Illuminati people, he said to be sure to call this historic. And because I kept seeing like people talk like Jeff Bezos returns from his historic trip to space. What about this was historic? Like what is what is the threshold for historic now? I guess like technically it happened. Like is that if something happens, it's by nature historic that we just
the
like
recording of this podcast is historic.
Because I'm like I thought historic meant like this has never happened before. Like what you're witnessing, you have never seen before, and
it's like what a rich guy do stupid shit.
A rich guy go like up in space and then come back. Like he didn't. Like have we not been going to space since the '60s? I'm so confused by like Richard Branson just did this like last week, didn't he? Jeff Bezos isn't even the first rich to go to space. Like much less. Like, what about this is historic, Jeff? This isn't historic. You're not historic. Shut up.
Also, no, there's nothing historic about this. Also, afterwards, a reporter said, you went into space. It's basically along the lines of like, Jeff, you went into space a little bit. Does it make you want to go into space more? And he goes, hell yeah. And then laughed maniacally for 10 minutes. And there's a great tweet where I had a great tweet about it, but I'm not going to say that my tweets are great, but I had a really good tweet about it.
We should do top 5 lizard person power rankings and in honor of Jeff Bezos. And like, where do top 5 lizard people that are in sports, and Jeff Bezos is on there now because he doesn't that feel like sports to you? Didn't I was like, does, should we, like he was going to space and I was like, oh, well, that's obviously what we'll talk about on the podcast tomorrow. And then I was like, that's technically not sports. Yeah, it does feel like sports though. I agree with you, but but at the same time, I'm not impressed whatsoever. I don't like. I was so confused by the whole historic thing, and like Bezos, like he probably just lobbied Congress or NASA to like change the definition of outer space. He probably like went to him. He's like, "This is how far my rocket can go. Can you guys change that to like?"
That's so true.
You know, and here's $7 billion. Make sure that like however high I go, you call that outer space. All right, thank you. Like, what the,
he bribed Merriam-Webster's dictionary.
Alan Shepard in like, what was that, 59, 60, whatever it was, like wrote a microwave around the world. John Glenn wrote a microwave around the world. And 50 years later, Jeff Bezos like goes up to skydive and doesn't even jump out. And now we have to pretend like we're impressed. Shut up, Jeff. Shut up.
Go home, Jeff.
Go home,
also,
Jeff.
Really tough look when like the West Coast is on fire to be like, I'm gonna sit this one out and like peace off to space. All right.
Oh, let's wrap this up.
That's all I have to say about that.
I've used the F word far too many times on this show.
We'll
let's
bleep
get
it
this
out.
thing over. All right, see you guys.